rest and just head straight to the back line, right? Whatever WRL Red is going to be picking up. But because of this Lilia reveal, it does give away that perhaps this might be a mid lane AD as well later on. But with the Gragas getting taken out, that is one less a heavy engaged champion on the side that Team Red would like to have on their Yasuo comp.
I'm not too sure what WRLB is cooking right now. They're cooking something spicy because I feel like this Olaf most of the time is going to be going into one of the solo lanes, the same with the Lilia. So this could be a Gragas support. We haven't seen Gragas support in quite some time with other supports being taken out already, and with this being Fearless Draft, it can be pretty big. But Rafa, as you just reacted to, Milio and Enchanter support on the other side. So now we're looking at them hyper carries that might be banned out here for WRLB, like the Kai'Sa potentially.
Great to empower marksmen and give them that extra range when you do throw down that campfire. But also, if you hit a 5-man lilting lullaby, well, guess what? Breath of Life comes in and then immediately cleanses the entire roster and ensures that they get out of that drowsy state. WRL Red now empowering themselves to try and find a very, very strong, formidable 5-on-5 team fighting composition. But as you pointed out, if you're picking the Emilio, then you expect to have also a very strong hyper carry, but there's already not that many.
Right, there's the Yasuo already, there's the Jax that wants to farm up a Storm. So now it's like, do you want a utility carry? You need something that is able to follow up. At the top of my head, maybe a Sivir, maybe a Nash, something that really will help set up for these two carries that is able to scale well in the late game.
Yeah, I'm really curious what you're actually going to pair with this Milio. Surprisingly, no AD carries and no marksmen have been banned on the side of WRLB. Instead, focusing more on the jungle with the Jarvan. No jungler has been picked yet for WRL Red. As I mentioned, this WRLB roster do have a lot of flexibility. There is that Kai'Sa ban. That was the one that I was thinking about. Can be paired quite well with Milio. You can go for something like the Caitlyn as well, but recently Caitlyn hasn't been able to deal that much damage. Again, it's so difficult to think right now what they're going to pair with this Milio because they locked it in so early. It opens up so much. Maybe you leave it for last pick and just see what the rest of the composition that WRLB has to offer. Ooh. Yeah, there's a Xin Zhao.
Yep, they're going to keep their Dragon Lane choice hidden all the way until the very last pick. But for WRL Red, you have strong 3-man fighter core from the Jax, from the Xin Zhao, from the Yasuo. The only thing that I'm a little sad about is that there's no real knock-up engage or setup for this Yasuo to ult off of other than the Crescent Guard from Xin Zhao, but it's not the most traditional one you think of. It's no Vi ultimate, it's no Malphite ultimate. A Volley Bear just got
what? What is happening? This is going to be super duper interesting. I think this is Volley Bear can get really, really scary, you know, once left alone or able to get ahead. But one thing that I'm curious about, since so far all melees on the side of Team Red, the Gragas is going to have a fun time with an explosive cast, a scatter, and they're going to top things off with a Senna. Stuart, I'm seeing your reaction right now.
This is insane. I mean, I said the WRLB were cooking. They're going absolutely wild here. So the one question is, who do you pair with this Senna? Because there is so much flexibility. Lilia can go into pretty much all 3 lanes. You can pair it with the Senna. Olaf can even go there. It might, I think it's going to be Gragas with Senna in the bot side, so you have a little bit of poke, a little bit of damage. Tristana on the other side gives you so much scaling though, and I think it's going to be so difficult to try and lock this Tristana down.
You know what's awesome though about the Tristana? I was asking for another source of displacement, of a knock-up from this roster, since it's only really Xin Zhao providing it with the Crescent Guard or the 3-talent strike, but boom! You throw a Buster Shot, and as soon as WRL Blue try to overdive into your composition, the Buster Shot comes out from the Tristana, you can punt them back, and if they're low enough, then the Yasuo can feel bold enough to follow up with the last breath. But now looking at the WRL Blue composition and where all the champions are starting to align, this seems pretty reasonable given what we were expecting here.
This is just such an all-in type of composition, for especially on Red side. You can imagine this Tristana going in, the Xin Zhao, Yasuo, Jax following it up with Milio, just being right there for the assist. But I think the biggest struggle would be, you have to be careful because I feel like Team Blue has a lot of punish potential. You've got your you've got your Gragas, you've got your Volley Bear as well. There's just so much punish potential that I feel like the Tristana has to be a bit careful with the timings of your rocket jump if you want to jump alongside with your team.
I'm a little bit worried about the lockdown potential of WRLB though. They don't really have that much crowd control in their kit. They do have the displacement with the likes of the Gragas. Lilia can be great, but sometimes that bit of miscommunication can be a huge factor. If you use that Gragas barrel, if you split everyone apart, Lilia tries to jump in and hit everyone and try and hit the ultimate as well, it can be a little bit difficult. Whereas on the other side, I think when you have so much of these anti-melee champions, like the Jax couldn't do so well against melee champions, the Milio can do so well and knocking them back as well. I think with Shizi coming into this roster and giving that extra bit of spice as well. And is it?
Let's see.
It's like, it's Yasuo bot lane with SkyFL and DY instead going into the mid lane with Tristana. So they're trying to get a lot of mid lane power against this Volibear, trying to put the Volibear behind and putting a Yasuo bot lane, which is not that bad because you're only against a Senna and a Gragas, so you could do a little bit of cooking down here.
You know what? WRL Red avoiding what could have been a devastating matchup from the Yasuo into that Volibear, because Volibear loves taking extended trades, constantly getting procs off of that second ability on the Yasuo there, but DY now allows to get that range advantage and just poke out Onron on this Volibear, and anytime he wants to look for the sustain, he's just going to get chipped away by the auto attack range.
Exactly. That is the favorable matchup that they were looking for, having to be able to swap around these lanes and swap around these picks. And now if you do have priority for the side of DY, that means Hueba has a bit more space to sort of roam alongside and invade Lilia's jungle!
Potentially the Reckless Swing, it's not enough! Scene is the victorious member in the Baron lane 1v1. WRL Red draw first blood.
Beautiful play there, solo kill in the top side of the map means that the Jax is going to get really far ahead, which is something that you don't want, especially when you get playing so many of these melee champions. You're playing so many of these champions that want to go into melee range, jump in, but you have a Jax to jump onto. Meanwhile, on the bot side, the potion potential from the center and the Gragas is there. Flash forward onto the Milio.
Soldier trying to set up the root right on top of CC's Milio. The dunk and the Eve is enough from New to slay WRL Red support where she stands. WRL Blue continuing to push forward in this game as they are able to equalize the kills.
I think it's definitely one of these struggles for that bot side. You do avoid the matchup, the unfavorable matchup in the mid lane with the Volibear, but at the same time, you don't have a lot of wave clear. You're going to get set up for these dives constantly, especially once they get priority.
I think now they've decided to swap back now because they know that they're going to struggle with the Yasuo. SkyFL was not able to get any farm at all. You're seeing he only has 1,600 gold on this Yasuo. He's going to be falling really far behind early on. And it seems like the Yasuo SkyFL potentially going for a more tankier build with that plated steel caps coming in for the first pick as well. So he's not going to be very useful when it comes to these team fights. But as you mentioned, Rafa, this mid lane is going to be even more of a struggle now. The Volibear is 2 levels, one level ahead now.
I'm actually curious then to see what SkyFL is going to start building. You do have a lot of physical damage already from multiple members here, but New has made his way to the Baron lane, lilting low by into the Eve, but the Counter-Strike from Zine blocks any incoming damage from Xjong, gets the Counter-Strike, and allows him to escape. SkyFL now has to deal with the retreat path of Onron's Volibear, just dealing out the damage in those fights.
Oh, you don't know where to go now as SkyFL here. You have to face the Volibear that was able to farm in the mid lane solo!
Counter-Strike set up there. My goodness, Scene is able to get revenge onto Xjong once again, this time with Hueba at his side.
Great punishment there for Hueba being able to step up where he wants to. And meanwhile, in this bot side, Senna is having an absolute field day in this bot side. We talk about how the the Tristana is going to kind of struggle here as well, because Senna is just farming stacks. You can see of her passive. Every time she walks up, she can keep auto-attacking, keep proccing her passive, and keep scaling into the late game. Looks like she's going for the man immune as well, so this Senna is going to be really, really powerful when she gets to that point of going into late game, scaling up some of this crit damage and the scaling from man immune.
Yeah, Soldier is very, very brave to do stuff like that, despite Jiangxi not having the mana to just sort of deter in case the bot lane jumps in on them, because right now the bot lane of WRLR has no firepower just yet. That Tristana really need a bit of time before anything else happens.
We're about 1:30 away from both of these first objectives spawning on the Rift here. It's going to be an Ocean Dragon and that Enchanted Ensemble. First item spikes haven't quite come yet, unless your name is Hueba, who already has that Trinity Force online.
Yeah, Trinity Force is such a huge power spike, deciding to skip the boots completely. Lilia using the ultimate, I believe. Yeah, did use the ultimate in the end, so isn't potentially going to have this for this dragon fight. It's going to be in about a minute's time. Scaling on both sides is going to be very scary, though, because one side you have the center, but the other side, this Tristana is also going to be able to get attack range over time with the Milio by her side. It's going to be quite difficult as the little emote comes out there, but overall, for now, the big difference at the moment is going to be really in the jungle, with the Lilia being able to power farm so much throughout this early game.
Even though she hasn't been able to pick up her first item spike, it's just because of that boots difference, which is why I believe Hueba wanted to get as much early power as possible, skipping those tier 2 boosts so that he felt competitive enough as, wow, Zitzi forced to flash away. I'm assuming that there is some fear that an explosive cast was going to come her way. Ragnarok is popped. Zine forced to flash away as well, dropping the Ignite. And now it is Xjong that has the flash advantage in the Baron lane.
Big completed items, just as he said, Triforce. Now Leandri's at the hands of Nunu. I do feel like these two junglers are ready to go at it, ready to fight and contest some of these objectives. I do feel like, though, top side, Baron lane side, feels like it's something that they could take advantage of to gain more space for the future Dragons. I feel like they're fine giving this away for a little bit, because so far, you see, they definitely need some help in that 0-2-0, what do you call this, Olaf.
A little split screen action there.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the first time I've seen it at this event, but shout out to our observers and our production team for getting a little bit of observer camera flare right there, as we saw both of the objectives traded on either side of the Rift. Dragon for WRL Red, Enchanted Ensemble for WRL Blue. The question now becomes, how do they want to use this? Do they just want to immediately break first turret, or do they want to wait for a successful team fight and steamroll the advantage for more?
I'm completely fine with them just trying to take this mid lane tower. It means that the Tristana and the Milio has to play more defensively, has to play a little bit further back. Again, the Soldier is just pushing further and further up. It looks like they are just going to use this potentially in the mid lane. No, Lily actually decided to back off for now. They really want to try and break this mid lane tower. Because it's so high on HP, you don't really get that much value from the Rift Herald, because it's not going to be able to take it all the way down to 0. So instead decided to back up. He's just going to use the farm for now, but now he's pinging forward here for Nunu to see if they want to use it in that mid lane. The mid lane is pushed up as well.
No,
Tristana is
jump!
up over, but no, that's so bad!
Onron disables the turret with that Skybreaker and just ensures that the dive at least is successful for now, but they're not able to get any killing blows lethal enough onto members of WRL Red, but the damage has been done. The ensemble was dropped, and first brick goes in favor of WRL Blue, but the action continues potentially for SkyFL. Finding the knockup, the last breath connects, and DY is there to rocket jump his way back to victory, but they're not able to close the gap onto Jiangxi's Gragas.
And Tristana just doesn't do any damage at the moment. The Tristana at least needs 2 or 3 items to be useful. You have a Milio by your side, which is great. That Milio is going to be so effective later on, but in this early game, it's so difficult. You can see the gold, even though the kill advantage and even the objective with the Dragon went over to WRLR. The early game is just way too weak. Flash forwards.
Flash forward from Zine sets up the Counter-Strike stun onto Soldier, forcing him to retreat. Onron right there at his side, able to at least sustain off of the piercing darkness. The rest of WRL Red doing what they can to push back WRL Blue on the other side of the map, because they are losing control of the Baron side at the moment.
I really love the decision-making coming from Blue Team here, because of knowing how the Jax can sort of spin out of control. You can see that Nunu is constantly hovered over towards top side to keep him on a tight leash. So at this point, they decide to just really maneuver and put all the impact, try their best to maybe get the bottom side of the map, but at the same time, WRLB are happy to play much safer and then engage in a more safer team fight later on.
Milio unfortunately still hasn't completed that first item. Really wants the Ardent Central line to try and buff up the Tristana and allow her to deal some more damage. Once Tristana gets that Magnetic Blaster, potentially goes into that Mortar Reminder, which is what Tristana needs as soon as possible to try and break through all of these bruisers and these tanks. At the moment, Tristana's going to do no damage against the likes of the Olaf, the Volibear, and the Gragas because there's no mortar reminder. So again, 3 items is the key here for the Tristana. But I feel like for the blue team, for WRL Blue, they could just keep on playing aggressive, try and steamroll the game out of control, then the Tristana can't carry on.
I like how you say steamroll because look at Nunya right now with a approximately 2k gold lead over the opposing jungler on Hueba. That Triforce pickup, that was supposed to be some sort of fight later on, but so far it hasn't been able to come into fruition. So now I feel like WRLB is going to keep pushing their lead, trying to invade and just really constrict Hueba's space in the jungle.
Yeah, it really was a moment where Hueba was trying to find an opportunistic fight. 2v3 dive in the bottom side of the map. Scene trying to take out as many minions as possible with the counter-strike, but there's too many members here from the side of WRL Blue, forcing the issue, getting the turret successfully taken down. The explosive cast is going to bring them closer, and DY is trying to do as much as he can, but the Bloodthirster just not enough to cut through the bruisers just yet. And you can see that the rest of WRL Red cannot cut through any member from the side of WRL Blue. Zhangji eventually fell, but the rest of WRL Red is in from Onron, forces the ultimate last breath onto the backside, but Soldier is able to cleanse the knockup somehow, some way. SkyFL forced to flash away, and the rest of WRL Red starting to struggle in this game 3. Onron maybe looking to continue the dive, just forcing them away, and guarantees the Dragons belong to WRL Blue.
No soul secure this game, Eva. It's going to be another game where the Dragons are just going to be stacking up, but no soul required for both teams. Really well played in the end by Amran9, going for the engage afterwards, knowing that the Tristana, again, as I mentioned, just doesn't have enough damage at the moment. The Tristana was auto-attacking so many times in that bot lane fight, but just no damage. Was able to get 1 kill, though, so that Magnetic Blaster is complete. And as I mentioned, going to be going for that Mortal Reminder because she needs armor penetration as soon as possible.
But so far, this Lilia, though, Nunya has been, acquiring extra kills. You could see that there... once Nunya makes an appearance, immediately you can see blinking health bars. So I'm really, really scared for WRLR on this matchup.
The sustain from the side of WRL Blue is so oppressive, and it's why I think, Stuart, it's so important to call out the fact that they needed those executioners calling a lot sooner, even though it did cut into their damage, because they're not just tanks on the side of WRL Blue. These are champions that have innate sustain, whether it's the lifesteal that you're getting in as this Olaf or the increased healing that you get off multiple blocks of your second ability as Volibear. Lilia has sustain in her passive as well, and the Senna on top of it. And you can see how easy it is for WRL Blue to feel confident to just rip this objective apart. Hueba, can he even get near to Baron Pit?
Zoning!
No, not in time. Baron secured. Last breath used to try and find a knockup, but Onron's counterattack is too fierce. This electric bear is just mauling them all to death, and WRL Red are running for their lives.
3,000 gold lead now for this Lilia. Been power farming the entire game, and that means you could go towards the Baron, take it down really quickly. Now going to be able to go back to base, potentially pick up the 3rd item already. Riftmaker, 3-item Lilia in 13 minutes in this game. 12,000 gold. Power farming is the key here for WRLB.
This is absolutely insane. Again, when we look back at that Baron, it was the solo Gragas, Jiangxi, zoning out 5 members of WRLR, and it's due to the fact that he's been focusing on being, building armor just against these heavy AD type of composition. You talked about this, Stuart, how DY is having a bit of a hard time getting these auto attacks down, and it feels like it's just a little bit of a tickle. Frozen Heart activated, Warmogs even at the hands of Jiangxi. I feel like that's definitely enough to really mitigate a lot of these, long drawn fights.
Look at this. Onron takes the last breath to the face, doesn't give a damn, goes back in for the dive, but meanwhile, Hueba finding a massive shutdown onto New's Lilia. Maybe this is a moment for WRL Red to steamroll themselves back into the game. They're still only down 3,000 gold, and the gold difference is starting to show its ugly head as the rest of WRLR Blue are able to answer back, just baiting in the WRL Red squad with false hope. After killing the Lilia, they thought it was their time to really come back into the fray. Another last breath cap with the upside, but Onron cannot die. He gets killed by another tornado, but SkyFL is just too weak. And here comes the Ragnarok Viking. Reckless swing to the face. WRL Blue owned this rift.
While everything was happening on the bot side, they were fighting for a good 2 minutes in that top lane with the Yasuo and the Volley Bear. Just constant back and forth. But in the end, as you mentioned at the start, Rafa, Ueba picking off the Lilia was a huge advantage. But even though that they pick off the Lilia, they take down so much gold on the side of WRL Blue. They still weren't able to deal enough damage, and the center in the end flashes forward to do enough damage, and they go in for even more as well. This Tristana just cannot do anything in these fights.
Yeah, you've got Soldier really scaling really hard already at this point of the game. So much safety, so much amazing spacing, and again, you've got a lot of beefy members that is able to front for you as Soldier. You've got the safety of the cleanse as well. You've got a couple of shields on your belt, and this makes it even harder for WRLR to sort of secure and remove the carries of the opposition.
And it's just crazy to think, because it's not like WRL Red are significantly that far behind in item spikes, but up until that fight, there was a 3-item Tristana trying to fire away as much as possible, even with the Grievous Wounds coming in from Mortal Reminder and Double Executioner's Calling, but it's just so much sustain that is loaded in to this entire WRL Blue squad. We were a little concerned about why is there some anti-synergy potentially with the Lilia ultimate and the Gragas displacement, but all these champions, they do one thing extremely well when paired with the Senna, and it's that they just do not die.
I mean, they're just protecting the center at all costs. They're making sure that they are the front line for this center to deal enough damage. 3 items now for the center. The Mortal Reminder is complete. Olaf will use the ultimate to escape there, just make ssure that he doesn't get knocked up by the Xin Zhao. The next Baron is up, but look at the Volley Bear, the on my way pings into the bot lane. Volley Bear is going to look to try and split push to try and get this bot lane tower. Someone needs to respond, but Rafa,
go back.
I don't think anyone could respond right now to Anran 9.
Potential fight in the mid lane. Good knock-up on the
Xin Zhao
Weva. Force the flash
Weva.
away. Exclusive cast! And there's Nunu with the follow-up. Blooming blows into the flash to send Weva back to the fountain. A rampaging Ragnarok Viking is running loose in WRL Red's base. And SkyFL is the next man on the menu. The Electric Bear will sink his fangs into the Swordsman, and WRL Red are down on their last legs. WRL Blue steamroll the game, steamroll the base, and WRL Red can't do a damn thing about it. The ace will not come through for Zed as he tries to survive, but his base cannot do the same. Game 3 goes to WRL Blue. GG!
What a game. I swear, it felt a little bit close. I mean, when we look back at the draft, it felt like everybody had their own set plan in mind. The Jax had that early kill. It felt like that could